So our next talk we will have an expert on a very remarkable topic, the revolution of aging tech for the silver economy. Silver economy. I guess I'm part of the silver economy. Sounds very interesting. And our expert is the founder and managing director at Aging Asia, Ms. Janice Chia. And we also have the CEO and executive advisor at Ruff and Company Business Innovation and Global Innovation and Healthcare Lead, Ms. Susie A. Ruff, as our moderator. A round of applause for our next discussion.
Yes. Hi, Janice.
Hello, Susie.
And hello, audience. Thank you for being here. And first of all, we would like Janice to make a presentation on the aging topic and aging tech. So Janice, please go ahead.
Hello, good morning. My name is Janice, and I want to share with you why I chose to enter the aging sector. So 10 years ago, when I talked about the idea of aging, everybody thinks about aging, and the whole process of aging from an older person's perspective is that we would get old, we'll get frail, we'll get weak, and then we'll pass away eventually in some nursing home. But when I looked at somebody like the picture you see in front of you, like my grandmother, so grandmother also had these notions that, I will get weaker as I age. And I told her, no, that's not true. It's possible today that we can get stronger as we age, we can get happier, more independent, and there's a lot of activities out there for an older person. And then that got me thinking that aging in future, we have to change our traditional notions of what filial piety is. Filial piety in Asian families, it's always about wanting to look after our parents, to look after our grandparents. And sometimes it's about over-caring and doing too many things for them. So in future, the vision I have for filial piety, it's about aging with laughter, a new form of filial piety, where we look after our parents and grandparents, we enable them to do the things they love, to let them lead a more independent life. Aging today is a social and economic opportunity. Whenever we think about aging, sometimes we might have that perception as well. Oh, it's about medical care. It's about this frail older person. But in future, aging is about that $3.3 trillion market opportunity. And where is that market opportunity for entrepreneurs out there? When you go home today, think about the people around you, because every one of us has somebody close to us that's aging. Aging will overlap every sector of our economy. And tomorrow's buying power, it's going to be the middle-income baby boomers who have saved all their lives. They have the spending power. They can spend a little bit on affordable luxury, but maybe not a lot. So the super rich will be able to look after themselves on their own. And the really poor will have the government safety nets. But what we're talking about when we look at the opportunity of aging economically is that middle-income sandwich class who is going to have to look after themselves, be more independent, take part in active aging and preventive healthcare, use the technologies to support them. I'll share with you a video of that new older person that represents strength and aging in a happier way.
I hated to go into gym because over there, this modern gym, it goes boom, 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 and all the muscle men and muscle women. And me, little old lady, I'm 72. My goodness, I feel really uncomfortable until my friend almost dragged me by my nose coming here. But once I'm here, I tell you, it's just a sense of well-being, a sense of comfort, because I know that when I'm here, nobody's going to laugh at me, right? We're all friends. And beside that, there is just so many activities that this founders of this organization has helped us. So it's really what we call a virtual retirement village. It's so small, and yet look at it. is a village because we have activities outdoors as well as to build up our muscles so that we can go rock climbing, we might go canoeing, not me, but dragon boat, and we have lots of food and fun. So this is my gym, and I'm very proud to show it off.
Will your mouth still remember the taste of my love?
This lady is 92 years old.
I still smile from your cheek.
And now the shoulder stands. And after that, have highlights. Look at this. A powerful body with more than 90 years. Yoga class.
So you can see that this new older person is no longer what we envisioned before. I mean, today if you tell a person who's 65 that they're old, they might look at you and go like, I'm not that old. That's not me. But aging is changing the way we think. And after today, hopefully we can inspire more entrepreneurs out there to think about creating products and services for the aging population. So I spent a lot of my time traveling around the world to look at different elder care models and different ideas of aging. And that's how I came up with the virtual village idea 5 years ago, to bring a community of older people together that's not limited by the bricks and mortar. So where is the market? If you think about what baby boomers want, they represent this new group that really want to live well, age well, and look at the opportunities of health longevity. Today, many of you in the audience today might be living to the age of 90 or even 100. The 100-year-old life is now going to be a reality. How are we going to make sure that in our 100-year-old life, we are able to age in better health and not to spend a lot of time being weak, but to spend more time being healthy and pursuing the interests we love? And that comes to independence. How many of you here would like to live with your children? If I go back and ask my parents that, they don't want to live with me because I'm going to ask them, what time are you coming home? So my parents today are different. They have a bigger social life than my grandma had. And then they come to the point where, are baby boomers willing to spend money to purchase the products that you are developing as entrepreneurs? I believe many of them, whether they are middle income or wealthy, they are looking for value. To make an older person spend the first dollar on your product is the hardest. Because sometimes the perception to a lot of new things for an older person could be, no, I don't want to try it. No, this is not me. I don't want to do it. So it encompasses a lot of understanding of what that older person wants. And older people are not one big homogeneous group. They are made up of many, many different personalities, like you and me. So lastly, what I want to add is that today when we look at technology, we have to look at whether older people want to use the technology, whether it's easy for them to use, whether it's seamless. When I think about the health monitoring devices, I think about whether or not after 3 months somebody is going to want to continue using it from the older person's perspective, the challenges they have charging it, or to create a smart home for older people. I think today technology is going to have to overlap every area that we live in, but in a very seamless way. And that's where innovation comes in, to enable older people to live independently in good health and to age with dignity. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you. So, very interesting. When I see your definition of the baby boomers, I can tell that I'm one of them because I was born in 1964. So, as we spoke about backstage, I'm entering the aging population, apparently. Well, anyway, I'm curious to know, Janice, how do we design health tech for the aging population and senior citizens who wishes more self-service or self-empowerment? What kind of things do we have to have in mind when we design for these people if we are tech entrepreneurs?
I think we can look at a couple of areas that is relevant for the older person immediately. A couple of areas I think of is healthcare, and then there is also housing, and then there is the technology applications that can be used. In terms of housing, when you go home today, look at your house design. How many booby traps are there in the house that an older person could probably fall down or to have to cross a beam to cross over? The idea of design for older people has to encompass universal design. And then we combine that with technologies like the smart home. And then we combine it with health monitoring devices. For example, sensor technologies that tell you whether or not an older person has moved, or some people actually embed the technologies in the running water or in the toilet flushes. Because if somebody wants to age in place at home, the greatest challenge is also dying in place alone. So what the role of technology and design can do is to alleviate some of these potential pitfalls and to make the home a safer place for an older person. Because I think today, a lot of people want independence. They want to be enabled. For an older person, they don't want someone to wheel them around or to do things for them or to feed them. Everything in the house has to be catered seamlessly for an older person. And then beyond the house, we have to look at the community. Are you able, despite any abilities that you may incur in your older age, be able to get out of your house into the community, take part in the activities, and to do your daily groceries? These all look very simple to us, but for an older person with some disabilities, they might find it difficult. So I think from the product person's point of view, it's about putting yourself in the shoes of mom, dad, or grandma to create that.
Yeah, and I'm from Denmark, and you're from Singapore. In Denmark and the Nordic countries, we have a lot of focus on involving the users in the solution development. So in this case, it will be involving the elderly people, but also healthcare professionals and nurses and doctors and so on in the co-creation of these products. So are there any other things you can add to this in your experience with aging? How should people go about? How should tech people go about tackling this, involving the users in the development of the tech?
I think first of all, you have to think about who is your target audience. Because there's many ages that can define an older person. Somebody who's 65 onwards, somebody who's 75 onwards, 85, or it could be defined by the level of strength that they have or how frail they are. Somebody who's 85 could be stronger than somebody who's 75. Yeah. So it's about knowing what is the audience that you want. If you are after, a lot of products today in the market are developed for those who are really frail, old, and sick. I think that the market in future is about those who are very active, who are very independent, and they are willing to try new technologies.
Okay. And yesterday when we had a real good chat, you said something like aging is overlapping all sectors. And I was curious to know, what do you mean by aging overlapping all sectors in society?
Okay. Aging used to be really under the realm of healthcare. And then you see that every time there's an aging event, Ministry of Health takes the lead. But when I talk about aging overlapping all sectors and aging as a social and economic opportunity, that opportunity comes from that spending power of baby boomers as they age. And therefore, what will they spend on? They will spend on leisure, they'll spend on tourism, they'll spend on transportation, housing, food and services, entertainment. So they will actually have spending power on all these other areas. When we stay in a hotel today, how age-friendly is that hotel in its design? That is the area of hospitality and tourism. When we think about holidays, are there more and more specially designed experiential holidays for older people? When we think of services, beyond home care services, how about the other side? Are there concierge lifestyle services available for older people who want it? An older person might be able to live at home very independently, but they might need some housekeeping help. So when I think about it, the market is not really just about the frail, but also about services to enable active baby boomers to do the things they love. And maybe they don't like doing housework.
Yeah, so we're also talking about skills changing or the need for new skills. Yesterday we also had this talk about how are we going to make sure that helpers can actually use technology, because if they cannot use technology, how are they going to enable the aging population with the technology? So how do you see this shift in the need for new skills of different kinds of professionals?
I think yesterday we also talked about the possibility that in this new economy in future, because of new technologies coming in, a lot of jobs will be displaced. But when we think about it, when jobs are displaced in one particular industry, there might be another industry that opens up, and that to me is the aging sector. So the aging population in future, and by its sheer numbers of growth, 1.2 billion in Asia Pacific, how are we going to look after older people better? In fact, we would probably need people from all sectors to go into the aging field and to use their knowledge to explore how they can support and enable more older people to live better. And then when it comes to caregivers, today we see a lot of caregivers delivering services like the medical support and care support for an older person. And also in Asia, we have helpers that help to do a lot of the domestic roles of caregiving. In future, maybe caregivers will have to be equipped beyond basic levels into a more professionalized area. So the skill of caregiving will enter through the education sector, more professional levels. The skills will be increased, the pay levels will increase. I'm a big advocate that, similar to teachers, perhaps we need to professionalize the care sector. The care support workers need to be paid better. I think that more can be done in society to recognize the role of caregivers as well as to recognize their pay and to provide tax incentives for those people who choose to enter the caregiving sector. And for example, when you look at the typical helper who's assisting a grandmother today in Thailand or in Singapore, most of the time I see them pushing them to the park in the morning, and then the helpers will leave all the elderly in a group, and the helpers will get together, chit-chatting and doing their own things. But in future, perhaps the helper's role is to be a lifestyle concierge, to help to organize that elderly person's activities, to know what they like, to bring them out and to make sure that they lead a happy and fulfilling life, to schedule different activities for them that will make them happy or help with the rehabilitation. But a little bit more than just doing things for them.
I was wondering how you see the gap between technology and people. Because like in my country, in Denmark, we don't lack technologies and new solutions because constantly the government is pushing industry also to get involved in the area of healthcare. So when I look around, my country only has like 5.5 million inhabitants, and the government, because we provide public healthcare for everybody, so it's free. So the government is pushing this development of new technology, but personally I see a lot of technology being developed but not being used. This goes for the hospitals, but also when we look at the home care and care sector. How do you see this gap between lots of technology and then people not using it? Why don't they use it?
I think the challenge of technology being used in this space is application, and also to have a platform that all technologies can universally ride upon. Right now, every government or every company is developing an ecosystem of products and services for their own community of users. But the challenge for an older person, and it always comes from starting to think from an older person's point of view, how easy it is to implement and integrate all these technologies around them. You still need that human person to provide that interface to enable them to use the technologies in an efficient way.
Yeah, I completely agree. You have to develop technologies that are very user-friendly. Otherwise, you cannot engage an aging population in technology. The last thing I would like to discuss with you is this double standard issue. How do we make sure that what we develop of solutions in the future for aging population is not only for the rich and famous, but also for the middle income? Yesterday we talked about the sandwich middle income group, but also for the people with lack of resources in society? Because this is a global thing.
I think that governments have to take the lead in aging to provide that safety net for older people who need that income level in order to pay for those technologies. There's no point putting in smart technologies in a house in a rural area if that area does not have broadband or they do not know how to use it. So that's the role of government, to make sure that implementations of new technologies can be accessible across all income levels. For the middle income, I think that it's really about finding value in that product that you can offer for them. And a lot of people don't realize that they need something because they don't know what it is. Yeah. So the idea of technology for older people, it's also a new concept. And depending on which market you're trying to serve, education has to come in first. But what I've found through experience is that there are a lot of services out there that sound sexy and relevant for an older person, like concierge services, but they may not be willing to pay for it yet. They may not think that they need it. However, there is one thing that every older person today is very concerned about, and especially those in that middle income segment that know that they cannot afford to pay for the expensive nursing homes in future. And that is the area of preventive health. How can they make sure that they have the strength and abilities to stay healthy longer? And today, diets are changing, lifestyles are changing, exercise patterns are also changing. And I think that with that in mind, a lot of focus will now go into active aging and preventive healthcare. And these are areas that technology can come in to assist. But in order for them to use it, yes, that's where the human interface comes in. But what technology can do is to improve the operational efficiencies so that the manpower is best used for that human interaction.
Okay, I get all this, but I still see that even though we're doing all these things, focusing on aging, I still see a lot of people talking about the issue, but also a lot of people not doing anything, not changing. Also when we talk about diets, when we talk about getting exercise. I mean, if we look just around Bangkok, there's a lot of people driving cars, and that's why we are completely stuck in traffic. I realize it's very hot, but on the other hand, why can't we start doing prevention? What does it take to begin this new paradigm where prevention is more important than treatment, also for aging population?
I think that in that area, perhaps that 20,000 attendees in Techsauce could make the biggest impact. If all of you go home today and explain to your parents how to use the iPhone for active health monitoring, how to use the Fitbit, how accompany them to the nearest gym where they can do some exercises and do it together with them. Don't just point older people to say, go use this, go use that. Sometimes older people need someone to encourage them to use it. And the best way to do it is to transform 20,000 people to help one or two other older people in your community, and then you will get the ball rolling. So I don't think that older people will want to do new things on their own. So I think that children have a big responsibility to educate those closest around them. And next will be the media. With 400 media in this event, I think that the media has a big role to transform the image of aging, that aging is a social and economic opportunity, and it's not just about weak older people, but it's about strong and active, a next generation of happy older people.
Okay, time is running out, but Janice, as the last thing, would you like to share a little bit about what Aging Asia is as an organization? Because you work in all Asia Pacific, as I understand it.
So Aging Asia travels around the world to curate all the interesting ideas and innovations for the aging sector, whether it's a retirement village model, whether it's a rehabilitation program, or a new dementia idea or innovation. What we really do is to help people in our network to identify the best products and services that their elderly will use in their nursing homes and retirement villages and communities. So what Aging Asia does is to look at all these good models and to look at how people in our community can transform these models and culturalize it for each city and each community. Because aging in the US, if you translate that model into Asia or into Singapore, could be different from how you translate it into Thailand and Bangkok, or even another part of another city. So what we do is really to bring that community together in an ecosystem of people who are most interested in transforming aging and changing the future of aging.
Thank you so much, Janice. I think we will also thank the audience. There's many people here today. We are really happy that so many of you would like to hear about the aging and aging tech. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susie.